Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Eric Loeb of Salesforce Inc., LLC, and Amandeep Singh Gill, United Nations Under-Secretary General.
Well, hello. It's wonderful to see so many people back together again, and also to welcome everybody who is watching while we are here today. I can already feel so much of the energy coming back into New York for UNGA Week after a couple of years of not being able to do this in the same way. My name is Eric Loeb. I have the pleasure to lead the Global Government Affairs and Public Policy team at Salesforce, and it's an even greater pleasure to be here with Amandeep Gill, who recently became the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy on Technology. And I've had the pleasure to see Amandeep in his incredible work in prior roles at this intersection of technology and science. And he comes to this work as a science diplomat. And I really appreciate that perspective. And you've had an array beyond all of your training and work around the world on everything ranging from nuclear disarmament to, of course, high-level digital cooperation, and recently thinking about how to use new technologies and AI to improve health services and delivery in parts of the world. So I think this is just a phenomenal cast of skills to prepare you for this latest leadership role. And so that's where I'd like to start a bit, Amandeep, is just to hear your thoughts, your framing at a high level for when the Secretary General asked you to take this on, and with all the different stakeholder groups that you have worked with around the world, what do you see as being some of the most important challenges and priorities in the vision for this new work as the envoy on technology?
Thank you very much, Eric, and it's a great pleasure to be here with all of you at Concordia. And thank you for the kind words. When the Secretary General asked me to take up this role, he had a few concerns on his mind. The world today is very fractious. It's divided. There is a lack of trust. And we are not seeing the kind of cooperation that should be there to address planetary challenges, climate change, the risk of famine and food insecurity, and many other challenges. Technology itself is becoming a cause for fractiousness. And things could go in the wrong direction, and the digital economy that we are all so used to, on which prosperity is being built, could fracture. Different countries could go off in their own direction on internet governance, on digital issues. So my first priority is to prevent that fragmentation, to ensure that we strengthen digital cooperation, to ensure that the internet remains free, open, secure, and inclusive. The other priority is to ensure that the tremendous opportunity that digital technologies offer to accelerate progress on the Sustainable Development Goals, that opportunity should be realized, and we should do our best in the UN to enable the deeper capacity to address the digital divide so that everyone is able to participate in that opportunity. There are countries around the world who are taking advantage of these technologies to leapfrog their challenges, but not everyone is doing that. Nearly 3 billion people are still not connected to the internet, so we need to get to grips with those problems.
There is a lot to that and a lot of work to do. I just want to build on that for a minute and to think about what you are observing as some of the priorities, some of the recommendations you have for working to manage the digital transformation of society, where obviously, as you're seeing, so much of technology is becoming central to government, central to all of our everyday lives. When you think about some recommendations you have for this transition, what comes to mind?
I think the most important thing is that there is good governance of the digital spaces, that human rights are respected online as they are offline, that digital transformations remain human-centric, that human freedoms, human agency is respected. The other important aspect is inclusiveness. It's not only a question of people getting left behind, entire countries could be left behind. So we have to help those who are behind to make sure that they also have a bite at the apple. The other aspect is that we need to reinforce collaboration across the public and private sectors. Digital public infrastructures have become an important aspect of our lives. Sometimes private infrastructure acts as a public infrastructure, and companies such as Salesforce and others are providing services to the public even though they are running businesses and earning revenue from that. So we need to work together in what is called the multi-stakeholder framework, companies, governments, civil society, academia, tech networks, to make sure that the digital opportunity is inclusive, it is safe, and that it does not delude us or take us further away from some of the pressing challenges that we have today. At the end of the day, we live in the real world. We have real world problems, and we need to get to grips with them.
Yeah, powerful. You know, it's interesting, as you were talking about the public-private partnership and the work that all stakeholders can do together, it does cause me to reflect, just even in the last couple of years, how we saw governments working in a new way with technology and partnering with companies to improve the citizen experience at the end of the day. And COVID forced a change in how governments deliver those citizen services, without the ability to do it in person, but to think about, at times, you need to do it remotely and use new tools. And so that accelerated a whole new way of this interaction, and the extent to which the government needs matched up with some of the technologies that are used in the private sector could come together to improve that experience from developed to emerging markets has been really remarkable. You know, and then the other thing that jumps out from what you were talking about from a standpoint of equality of opportunity, that also is so critical. And of course, we have seen that increasing divide, not just the digital divide, but even where there are the digital services, still inequality of opportunity. And we've seen a remarkable change in how businesses even think about how you employ and where you employ. And the traditional view would have been the talent has to come to the work. And after a couple of years of people working in very remote ways, there is this very changed recognition that the work can go to the talent. That has this amazing democratizing effect on opportunity. And if people keep that going and provide the skills training, the digital skills to bring that opportunity to new places, it has a huge effect. And I pair it with one final thought on that is I think people can think less about hiring by diploma and more hiring by skills.
Absolutely.
And when you pair that together of reskilling in more places and then hiring based on skills rather than the diploma, that's an amazing and inspiring way for people to participate. So just bring that into your thoughts of how you're working with people and how you think about responsible, inclusive opportunity.
Absolutely. Maybe, Eric, I can turn it around and ask you a question as well. But just to say that the priorities are connect the people, so those who are missing the connection to the digital world. Also make sure that we count everyone. If you're not counted, you're invisible. So there are people missing from the digital space. Their data, the content that they generate is not there. So we need to make sure that that invisibility is addressed. There is misuse, the data is there, the digital opportunity is there, but we are not interoperable enough, we are not cooperating enough. And then there's frankly misuse. There is surveillance, there is abuse of human rights online, abuse of social media for misinformation, disinformation. We need to address all these 3 M's. And a company such as Salesforce, you're a leading tech company, so how do you contribute to this agenda working with governments and others?
Well, a couple of the examples are ones that I shared. So I do still believe that we are just at the very incipient stage of how private and public sectors can work together to, again, improve the citizen experience and put the citizen at the center of the work and at the center of the technology. So start there. I do believe as well, as I said, that there are amazing benefits of public and private partnering on reskilling, so that in many ways, the governments will know where that skilling opportunity exists and to reach parts of the population that have been underserved, and then working together to better address that. But a third thing, which is part and parcel with what you just raised, is that this deployment of technology, as it becomes more central to everyone's lives and governance, it has to be done in an ethical way. And so the ethical use of technology is critical. Salesforce has recognized this for a while, and we, in 2018, established an office, the ethical and humane use of technology, to review our products, how they are developed from the very earliest stages up through deployment. And it's a really interesting process. Of course, the work's never done. It involves both leadership in the company and frontline employees on a committee, and then external advisors. We're very privileged to have as one of our advisors one of the members of the leadership team from the High Commissioner of Human Rights, the UN. So we get a lot of perspectives to try to inform how we're doing it. So those are just 3 ways. It's very, very simple. I'm going to flip it back to you for a minute. You, in your work immediately before coming into this role, were working on AI and healthcare. And so that must have given you a lot of insights about the use of AI and data to ensure that it is deployed in a way that provides equal opportunity for people around the world.
Right.
And how has that influenced your work coming into this role?
Absolutely. So that gave me a feel of the kind of challenges we face in democratizing the data and AI opportunity. And it also gave me a sense of what's needed for the world to come together to create these moonshots, because no single country has the resources, the data sets, or the talent to address things like climate change resilient agriculture. If data keeps sitting in different parts of the world and we don't bring it together in new ways, innovative ways, in which everyone feels incentivized to participate in the collaboration, then we are missing a huge, huge opportunity to address the challenges of predicting the next pandemic, responding to it in time, developing the next kind of drugs and vaccines that we would need, or developing the varieties of crops that we would need in a world where climate change would have disrupted the traditional agricultural patterns. So that's what I got a sense for in working on this, let's say, a new CERN for AI. This is something that Gary Marcus, who used to be at NYU, called for in 2017. And I find that as a very powerful idea to give us a sense of the moonshots that we need on agriculture and food security, on health, on the green transition, on humanitarian emergencies. AI can be a misunderstood term, and perhaps it's a very imprecise term for the kind of technology suite that it brings in. But there's tremendous scope. We need to get the context right, the ethics and governance right. We need to get the data right. We can't just jump straight to AI.
Yeah, it's very true. I've had conversations with some of my colleagues who work in health and life sciences, and sometimes people say we have to jump straight to our AI solution, and my colleague will say, first you need to have the data and have it in good shape to know what you're working with.
Absolutely. And just to say that over the next 2 years, as we develop strategies to address these 3 M's, the misuse, the missing people from the digital world, and the misuse, there will be 2 milestones. There will be a global conference, a summit of the future that the UN has called for in 2024. It'll be preceded by a ministerial meeting in 2023, and there'll be a digital track. So digital is one of the priorities for the summit of the future. And as part of the digital track, we would build a document together called the Global Digital Compact. So I invite each and every one of you to think about it. If you want a certain kind of a digital future that respects humanity, our human values, that's inclusive, that's open, that respects human rights, please participate in that process and make your voice heard.
Well, Amandeep, it's wonderful. I cannot imagine someone to have a better background and skills to come into this role. And it's a critical time for the work you're doing, for all of us to do together. So as Amandeep says, join in, help out. There's so many perspectives in this room, and I know that you are open and ready to work together. So thank you for the leadership, and best of luck with all of the work ahead and a very successful week this week.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.